Well, happening now, the latest on the status for this year's Chautauqua County Fair. Plus, county officials are urging residents to continue to follow those health guidelines during phase 1 of reopening and beyond.
Well, the clouds are starting to thin out across the southern tier this afternoon, but much better weather is ahead. I've got the full forecast next, so the news at noon starts right now.
Live and on demand, this is WNY News Now.
And thanks for joining us for WNY News Now. I'm Justin Gould. The Chautauqua County Fair's 2020 season has been postponed until next year due to COVID-19 concerns. Fair President Dave Wilson tells WNY News Now this was one of the toughest decisions that the Fair Board has ever made. Wilson says because of continued uncertainty surrounding the pandemic and the effort to reopen, the board decided to postpone this year's event.
According to the governor's plan, fairs and festivals were into phase 4. Well, phase 4 really probably won't happen until about the 1st of July or so. So, there's going to be some stipulations, not knowing what those stipulations are going to be. Do you have to social distance at the fair? Do you have to wear masks? Nobody really knows. So we just couldn't wait until July 1st to put together a fair in a week and a half.
Now, Wilson tells us that efforts like social distancing could be impossible in an environment like the fair. Furthermore, officials were running out of time to coordinate activities and hire vendors. This would have been the 139th fair held here in Chautauqua County. Wilson says this was not the first time that the fair has been postponed. During World War II, from 1942 to 1944, the grounds were used as a prisoner of war camp. In 2021, Wilson says the fair will be bigger and better, serving as one of the county's largest celebrations. Well, Chautauqua County officials are stressing the importance of remaining in compliance with health guidelines instituted by New York State as Western New York enters phase 1 of reopening today. During a press conference this morning, County Executive P.J. Wendell addressed tourism and its impact on the county. He says the adhering to social distancing is critical to keeping that industry intact as each phase of reopening moves forward.
Potentially, if we're looking at a 2-week window for each phase, in 6 weeks, we could be looking at a much broader opening of Chautauqua County. That's if things go well, if we continue to follow these rules. And to your point, and this is something we want to drive home to everybody, if we don't follow the social distancing, if we don't practice our wearing our masks and doing the things we're supposed to in each of these phases, we could jeopardize that tourism industry as we move forward. So those are things that we need everybody to consider.
Now, Wendell says phase 2 of reopening should occur in 2 weeks, provided that Western New York continues to meet criteria presented by Governor Andrew Cuomo's office. He furthers that he'll keep the community apprised to when he has an official answer in regards to further reopening methods. Well, the 51st case of COVID-19 was reported by the Cattaraugus County Health Department yesterday. Here's a look at the updated COVID-19 map. Officials say the case was identified at UPMC Chautauqua Hospital in Jamestown after a man living in the southwest part of that county was admitted there for dry cough, shortness of breath, and diarrhea. That man, officials say, had no significant travel history prior to being tested. Now, they've now begun a contact tracing investigation for the places that he did visit. There are now 13 active cases with a total of 36 recoveries after 2 more patients recovered on Monday. Since the outbreak began, 2 people have died from COVID-19 in Cattaraugus County. Meanwhile, back here at home in Chautauqua County, there were no new cases of the virus reported yesterday. There remain a total of 53 cases with 14 active, 35 recovered, and 4 deaths related to the outbreak. Health officials continue to stress that if you are sick, you need to call ahead to your doctor before visiting their office. The best way to get tested for COVID-19 is by getting a prescription from your primary care provider. Well, as the nation begins to reemerge from life under lockdown, one thing is critical to combating coronavirus going forward: finding an effective vaccine. One company now saying it may be one step closer to protecting people from the virus. Karen Kafa explains more.
As the world works to find a safe and effective COVID-19 vaccine, manufacturer Moderna says it is seeing promising results in human trials.
These are really good news for us and everybody that's been watching for this day.
The biotech company, in partnership with the National Institutes of Health, measured antibodies in 8 people it vaccinated, and all 8 developed neutralizing antibodies.
These antibodies were proven to be able to block the ability of the virus to infect cells. We are already seeing an immune response at the level of people who've been infected with this virus and are believed now not to be susceptible to further disease.
It's encouraging, but we still don't know if people who have been infected with the virus are immune from it in the future. So it's not clear whether vaccination will provide total immunity. So far, Moderna has vaccinated between 60 and 100 participants. Starting in July, the company plans to begin to conduct large-scale clinical trials, which typically consist of tens of thousands of people. If those studies are successful, the company hopes to have a vaccine on the market between January and June of next year.
This is really a very first important step in the journey towards having a vaccine available for the people who need it the most.
As researchers work at lightning-fast speeds, medical experts caution it may be some time before a COVID-19 vaccine is perfected.
If you are going to work out a perfect vaccine, it will take years and years.
In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
Karen, thank you. Well, just days after filing for bankruptcy, JCPenney is now planning to close nearly 200 stores this year. The 118-year-old company has struggled to gain profits for years, but they say now because of COVID-19, their sales have plummeted. Last Friday, JCPenney's filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. The retailer has 85,000 employees, but hasn't said how many people could lose their job because of the closings. The company says next year an additional 50 stores will also have to be closed. JCPenney is the 4th national retailer to file for bankruptcy just this month. It's unclear if the store at the Chautauqua Mall will be impacted by this announcement. We'll continue to follow that for updates. Well, a new scavenger hunt is seeking to raise awareness about stopping the spread of coronavirus here in the Jamestown area. Known as the Harry the Hygiene Hound Children's Scavenger Hunt, the campaign takes place outside of 50 businesses located throughout Jamestown and Lakewood. Now launched last week, the brainchild of Jamestown resident Rebecca Rosen calls on kids 14 and younger equipped with masks and gloves to find hygiene reminders posted around our community. Rosen says local artist Gary Peter helped create the mascot.
I had the concept of Harry the Hygiene Hound. I knew what he wanted to look like, but I am not an artist by any way, shape, or form. So I contacted Gary because he does wonderful murals for the Lucio Valdez Arnaz Center, and I asked him if he would like to become involved in helping the community during the pandemic, and he stepped right up to the plate.
Now the sign, as you see there, reminds everyone to wash their hands, stay 6 feet apart, tell someone if they're sick, and remind them not to touch their face. Once contestants find all locations, they're asked to email them to Harry with their name, address, and phone number. The email is harrythehygienehound@gmail.com. Now, in total, there is $200 worth of prizes donated by local retailers. The contest ends this Friday. Rosen also gives special thanks to the Jamestown and Lakewood Mayor's Office and the 50 businesses for helping launch this campaign. Such a great idea to help keep those young people in our community engaged in COVID-19 and give them some tips as well. We thank you so much for joining us here on WNY News Now as we continue to put facts over fear in our coverage of the novel coronavirus outbreak and trying to answer your questions as well throughout the community. Got to say hello to Ray Ray. Thanks so much for joining us. Got to say hello to Rod, Sherry, Beth, Joseph, Samantha joining us. Michael, good to see you. Good to see Pam too on the broadcast. We thank you all so much for joining us today. Let's now switch gears and get a check of our first defense weather forecast, and it's certainly feeling like summer out there. Isn't that right, Mr. Hunter?
It is. It is feeling like summer, finally. We have been waiting for this for quite a long time. And I wanted to throw this in here because this is cool. I got a new toy last week in terms of an iPhone 11. Yeah. I mean, a tech dork with a new phone, lots of drool got all over it. But one of the cool things about iPhone 11 is it has what's called a night mode, where it adds more light into photos that are dark. So this is a test I took of the cloud cover last night from the essentially from the Hunter Palatial Estate here in town. Here we go with the Mill Creek Mall Sky Vision camera. This is a live image, and you can see just a milky white sky out there. But look at that temperature of 72 degrees. It is going to be a fantastic day out there. You can see the satellite composite here. This is just the satellite. You can see the clouds are starting to go away now, but they're going to be stubborn to clear out because high pressure, we're in what's called Rex blocking. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But you can see that the clouds are still kind of hanging around here, but it's keeping a lot of the moisture down to our south as high pressure is sinking air. It's basically high pressure is sinking air, not rising air, which is what low pressure is. 70 was the high yesterday. That felt great yesterday. 55, of course, was a low this morning. Back in this day in 1996, the high was 90. That broke the record high for this day. So 66 to 74 through the afternoon. Sun and clouds will be battling through the day, but it's going to be a nice day, but mild with a stiff breeze. But if you like this, more of it is on the way. We'll talk about it in a few. Justin?
All right, Dakota, thank you very much. Coming up next, Jamestown Mayor Eddie Sundquist, a member of the region's control board, joins us live next to talk more about our reopening process. Stay with us.
With coverage that matters, this is WNY News Now.
EagleZip.com is your local one-stop shop for all of your home and business computer needs. Located on Fluvan Avenue Extension, just outside of Jamestown, EagleZip.com sells and services all brands of desktops and laptops, as well as servers and network equipment for your business. All new computer sales include transferring your data from your old computer plus a 2-year warranty. Call EagleZip.com today.
Stop by EagleZip.com today and let us make computers easy for you. When you're on the go, stay in the know by downloading the WNY News Now mobile app. Stay up to date on local news, weather, and sports that matter to you. Plus, subscribe to breaking news and weather alerts from the team that puts coverage first. In addition, watch news as it happens with the Southern Tier's only 24/7 streaming network. Download the WNY News Now app right now. It's free on the Apple App Store and Google Play Store.
You're watching WNY News Now, where coverage comes first.
And welcome back to WNY News Now. Well, big news was announced yesterday that Western New York is now ready for stage 1 of reopening. Joining us on the broadcast to talk more about what that means for us here in Jamestown is Mayor Eddie Sundquist, who's a member of Western New York's control room. Mayor, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks so much for having me.
In regards to this reopening process, what does this first phase qualification mean for us right here in Jamestown?
Well, phase 1 of opening is obviously a huge thing for this region. We can start to open up Chautauqua County as well as the rest of the Western New York region. The big thing here for phase 1, which starts today, is businesses that are in the construction, manufacturing, agriculture, forestry, or retail that can provide curbside pickup are all able to open as long as they have looked at the guidelines on the state's website and have self-certified through the state's website. We want to encourage all of our businesses to make sure that they do that process first, to go to forward.ny.gov in order to self-certify, and then they can safely reopen following those guidelines provided by the state.
Now, with the self-certification, is there something where businesses will have confirmation of that in case community members, I know that there's a tip line where they can report in case someone came and questioned that?
Absolutely. So whenever a business does it online and actually puts their information in and pulls that template, it is provided to the regional control room so that we do know which businesses have self-certified and which ones have started that process. So as members of the control room and elected officials, we are going to be working with businesses to make sure they have all the things they need to safely and securely start back up.
Now, the governor has mentioned that even though those businesses who are part of phase 1 can begin to reopen, there's still some guidance that have to be followed. What specifically are officials like you asking for local businesses to do?
I think the first thing to do is to make sure that your business has a plan. I would say go to the state's website, take a look, because every sector has a reopening guide and a template. So we're asking all of those businesses to go to the state's website, to take a look at what your individual sector requires for safely reopening, and start to work towards that. Whether your industry needs masks or you just need to maintain social distancing or provide PPE for your employees, take a look at what those guides are, have a plan, get certified, and let's get everyone back to work.
Now, there's still a lot of uncertainty about when we would start to move forward towards other phases. I know roughly they say 2 weeks, but there are other factors that play into it. Is that something that you and county officials would announce, or is that something that would come from the governor? What have you heard?
So for each phase, the regional control room is actually the one that's going to be helping to determine if we can move on to the next phase. For right now, we believe that every phase is going to be about 2 weeks. So assuming everything goes swimmingly, there's no hot spots, businesses and people are doing the things we've asked them to do, we should be looking at a phase 2 opening in about 2 weeks from today. The regional control room, though, is there to monitor if there are flare-ups, if there are hot spots, or to determine what to do next if we start to slip in some of our metrics, our hospitalizations, our death rates, or our increase in contact rates. We are monitoring those things carefully, and we are hoping that within 2 weeks we can start to open up phase 2. But as a control room, we may actually have to hold off on another phase until we stabilize as a region.
What has it been like so far serving in that control room? It seems like there's a very diverse number of people who are involved in the process.
There are a very diverse number of people, and we have a really great opportunity to have a mix of elected officials, folks in academic, and we just added the dean of UB Medical School the other day. So we have a really interesting mix of people to start to look at the metrics, look at the data, but more importantly, we're there to problem solve. The county executives and the mayors, we're asking questions as they come up from our constituents, from the different businesses. We want to try to get answers, and we want to try to get them to people as quickly as possible. It's been a great opportunity to be a part of this, and it's wonderful that we have such a responsive team that we can deal with things quickly and efficiently across the entire Western New York region.
Now, as you mentioned, really everyone's looking to move forward in regards to reopening, but the control room and the state officials do have the power to make adjustments depending on how the outbreak reacts to us reopening. Do you know specifically what those adjustments would look like? Would it be simply a delay of moving to another phase, or could we move back? How does that work?
Well, as you and every one of your viewers probably know, the situation is incredibly fluid. So if we start to see an entire wave again, this might be a bit of a different situation. But as of right now, we're looking at whether we just are going to hold back from opening to phases. We definitely do not want to slip back as a region. We definitely don't want to start to close things back down and restrict it. We are not anticipating that that is going to happen, although it could. There's no guarantee. But we want to make sure that all of our residents, all of our businesses are doing the things, the basic things we're asking them to do, so that we do not see a flare-up, we don't see a hot spot, and we are able to continue on to the next phase.
Now, last week, county officials announced a plan that would break the county off into a sub-region with 2 others nearby. Do you think that the Buffalo region would greatly impact the future of reopening in other stages, and that we should consider being a sub-region?
Well, listen, at this point, we are one Western New York region. We are already starting the process to open as one Western New York region. I don't anticipate that we're going to see a break-off in any way, shape, or form. We've started that process now. We're going to continue that process through. And it's important that we just all work together to open as quickly as possible, but also as safely as possible.
And I know County Executive Wendell has mentioned, and last week specifically, that our metrics specifically in Chautauqua County were in line with what the governor was asking of areas, and then they tweaked that a little bit. The idea of us being separate from Western New York seemed to go along with a lot of people, but on the other side of the fence, people were saying, well, people from Western New York from Buffalo might come down here. Is that kind of the guidelines of us being united as one, since we are still only 2 hours difference?
Well, I think there's a couple things that unite us. Number one, we have a very similar economy, right? We do have a lot of people that are traveling between our counties in this area. But number two, we also have a very unique and connected hospital system in this area, right? If you get treated here in Chautauqua County, southern Chautauqua County, you might end up going to Erie or Pittsburgh, or you might end up being taken to ECMC or up in Buffalo. Same things happen with the North County, the north part of our county. Many of those individuals will get sent to a hospital in Buffalo. So we are very much connected both as an economy, as a region, and as a hospital system, which makes it a good fit to have a Western New York region.
All right. And finally, we thank you so much for joining us today. We've come a long way since this outbreak began. Looking back now, how well do you think we've done, and what's your mindset going forward?
Well, I think the city of Jamestown, as well as most of Chautauqua County, has done a really good job listening to folks about staying home, keeping your distance, only having essential travel. I'm concerned that as we start to lessen restrictions, people will stop listening to that. We've seen a bit of a spike in some of the infection rates. It's so important to understand we are not out of the woods just because we've started phase one of opening. We still need people to socially distance. We still need people to wash their hands and wear a mask. We are almost there, but we're not there yet. So we want to remind our residents, remind all of the county residents to continue doing what you're doing until we are fully over this hump.
And I'd imagine if people in the community didn't want to listen to the news or to officials, they could at least listen to Harry the Hygiene Hound, for sure. So
absolutely, we love Harry the Hygiene Hound, and as you know, he wears a mask and socially distance himself, just like everyone should.
Yes, he does. It's such a great campaign, really, that has been launched, and definitely interacting with some of the younger people in our community. Jamestown Mayor Eddie Sundquist joining us today. Mayor, great to have you on. Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a great day. Thanks again.
Thank you. Let's now get a check of our weather forecast with Dakota.
That billboard, I think, is on Jones and Gifford, if I'm not mistaken. That's where it looks like it is. So I'll have to go out there and take a look at it myself. Hey, rainfall totals from yesterday, really minute. We didn't have a whole lot of rain yesterday. Only 0.02 of an inch of rain was gauged at the Jamestown airport yesterday. Nothing in Dunkirk, 0.04 of an inch in Erie, and almost 1/4 of an inch over in Buffalo. That was it yesterday. A lot of that heavier rain was off to our west. So clouds are going to be slow to clear out. Again, we have high pressure blocking. It's called a ridge block, and that is going to keep the clouds around for just a little bit while longer. But tomorrow, the sun will shine. It's going to be a wonderful Wednesday. Thursday will be tremendous. And if you like the stretch of weather, it is likely going to continue through the weekend with temperatures warming up, but we do have a small chance for at least a scattered rain shower in there through the weekend. So 66 right now as of noon hour at the Jamestown airport. East wind of 17. That is key to this forecast with an east wind, but it's breezy with a wind gust of 24. Note this dew point number of 45 degrees. That means the air is relatively dry. When the air is relatively dry, that means we're not going to have rain. And this is what's happening here. This has been long overdue so far this spring. A big warm-up surge of warmer air is going to be shoving on in. This is because of the jet stream. All these red animating arrows is basically showing you the jet stream. When it pulls north, that basically means warm, moist southern air is going to be allowed to infiltrate the northeast. And that's exactly what's going to be happening here pretty much throughout the end of the month, going into early next month. There's a big blue high pressure area that's actually right up in here. It's called Rex blocking. It's a high pressure ridge over low pressure. The low pressure is right here, so it's blocking this low from actually moving towards us, and it's actually moving it backwards a little bit because the high is blocking it from coming our way. So that means great weather. This is what's left of Arthur that I showed you yesterday. It is now post-tropical. This thing is going to loop-de-loop out to sea and will not be a threat to anybody over the next 6 or so days. Today would be a great day to get out and golf, but again, we keep telling you social distance, 6 feet apart, you know, separate carts, all that stuff. Temperature up to almost near 70 degrees with lots of sun at times. Here it is on Future Scan. Notice the clouds here. The clouds are still going to be hanging tough through the afternoon, but sun and clouds are going to mix through the day. And then tonight, a little bit more clouds will come in. We'll call tonight mostly cloudy, but watch the clouds just go whoop, go right away for tomorrow. So we should be in full sunshine both tomorrow and Thursday, with temperatures actually getting close to the lower 70s once again. So west we go, young man, on the zone forecast here. Temperatures near the Lake Erie shoreline getting close to the mid 70s in some spots. Now off to the east here, a little bit cooler, but a good day. Temperatures up to near 70 with an east wind 10 to 15 miles per hour. Now the next 7 days of your life, and read what I wrote at the bottom of the 7-day. Do not adjust your screens. You are not dreaming. This is high def, people. We don't adjust televisions anymore. Now, every day, basically, we're going to see sunshine almost every day, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, there is a small chance of a rain shower. But again, who cares? With temperatures actually up to near 80 on Memorial Day, Justin.
Wow, I love it, Dakota. Thank you very much. Well, if you're looking to adopt a puppy while staying at home, here's a pro tip. Make sure it's legit. The Better Business Bureau is now warning of a recent spike of quarantine puppy scams. Yeah, it's a thing where people advertise on websites for animals that don't even exist or are never shipped out. Scammers convince would-be owners to provide money up front or make an excuse about why they can't see the pet in person. A woman reported losing more than $1,000 to 2 different puppy scammers back in April. Now, to avoid the scams, don't buy a pet without seeing it in person. Avoid wiring money or using a cash app or gift card. They say to consider reaching out to a local animal shelter, possibly the Humane Society here in Jamestown. That's a great place, still doing adoptions from afar. Well, we thank you all so much for joining us here on WNY News Now as we continue to put facts over fear in our coverage of COVID-19. Want to jump into the comments here. Tammy asks, is it a majority vote to move forward? Well, Tammy, they look at metrics, and if we meet certain metrics set by the state, then we can continue to move forward to another phase. So right now, everybody's meeting this metric. That's why we're in phase 1. In 2 weeks' time, officials say if we continue to meet these metrics and there's not a spike or a cluster that has to be addressed in cases, then they will continue to move forward in phases. And because COVID-19 is so new, there's so much unknown about it. And that's why officials are really taking their time. And they say 2 weeks gives them a good enough judge and temperature, so to speak, to see what the area is doing. We'll, of course, continue to keep you updated. Every week, Chautauqua County holds a press conference at 3 o'clock. We stream that live here. That's on Friday. Today was a special press conference this morning. And then every day at 4 o'clock or thereabout, they issue an update to the media. And we turn that around very quickly and have that up for you as soon as there is new information. And when you're on the go, you can stay in the know in regards to that information by downloading the WNY News Now mobile app. It's free to use. Just search WNY News Now on the Apple App Store and Google Play Store. Subscribe to breaking news push notifications, and we'll keep you updated. That's going to do it for us today. We leave you with this beautiful shot over downtown Jamestown. If you can, get out, social distance, and enjoy the sunshine. We're back here tomorrow at noon. Hope to see you then.